Our next main subtopic, still under main sources of conflict, is conflict which may arise as a result of different personality types. Generally, it's never an easy topic when we talk about personality types, but it's one that's necessary for us to understand the conflict environment. Why? Simply, people are different. To reiterate what I said earlier, we have different fingerprints, different heartbeats. The lens of how we see the world differs from the one that's next to us. No one person communicates exactly the same as his fellow neighbor. No one thinks or speaks exactly the same as his or her fellow human being. And so therefore there's a need to understand diversity of personality so as to better understand and create a good working environment. So in this regards, we're going to look at the types of personalities. And in particular, we're going to look at 4 of them. And so we'll start with the first one, which talks about introverts. Introverts are generally characterized as the following. They are perceived to work more with less chatter. And by chatter I mean less talk. They like to preserve their time and space. Simply put, don't waste my time and don't invade my space. They tend to work better in their own environment. So they like the peace and quiet. They struggle with social interaction, and therefore they prefer one-on-one interaction when discussing anything in depth. Looking at the next grouping in terms of personality types, we'll look at the extroverts. And they're characterized by the following. They're perceived to be sociable and less focused. They're perceived to love the limelight. They're at their best in their element in a people-orientated environment. They are motivated when their egos are stroked in the public domain. They thrive on interaction with others. And they excel at thinking on their feet. In other models of personality types, these will be perceived as the peacocks. See me, see my feathers, see how good I am. Looking at the next grouping when it comes to personality types, we'll look at the perceivers. These are generally characterized as follows. They are both adaptable and unconventional. They are deemed to be productive when actively engaged. They have an unconventional approach to their jobs. They recognize their creativity. And these are the out-of-the-box thinkers. They don't like to be limited in their thinking approach. And the last group that we're going to look at is what they call the judges. And again, these are characterized as follows. They're well organized, but tend to be rigid. Best enlisted in productive development, planning, and scheduling. They're the masters of that. They are thorough thinkers with attention to detail. They're adverse to changes, especially last-minute ones. They are proficient detail planners. And so these are the personality types when we look at the main source of conflict. And obviously there are differences in what characterizes each personality grouping. When they come together, will obviously bring the challenges of conflict. And so, what are the consequences when personalities clash? It may cause stress as a result of if it's negative interaction. It can result in both physical and mental disintegration. It could have an impact on health issues. It could be a situation where people even quit their jobs. It could impact on productivity by lowering productivity, jeopardize projects. It could sap people's energies within organizations. And as a result, we see a dip in progressive outcomes within the organizations. That's the negative side. At the same time, it could have a positive impact, where synergies or coming together of these personality could be something positive and something good. And hence, we'll look at the last point under this subtopic, which is really the transactional analysis. And by this we talk about the social intercourse between individuals, groupings, organizations, where we look at three aspects. One being where stimulus is involved. We look at who the initiator of communication is. And generally when we say something, think something, and we bring it to the fore, we solicit a response. And so the person who responds, we look at them as the respondent. In some of the research that have been done, Dr. Thomas Harris simplifies the approach. And he looks at it from three aspects. The first being the parent, or he calls it the taught concept. The second being the child. He calls it the felt concept. And then the third one being the adult. He calls it the learned concept. And so, in the work environment, we tend to look at it from the adult or learned concept. And here we're looking at the egos that are stated. So ego state, for example, a surgeon dealing with a nurse. Because they've worked in partnership for some time, he may be doing an intricate procedure, operating on somebody's brain, and he will stretch out his hand without saying anything, meaning he needs some forceps. The nurse, because of that environment, because in an adult environment, will respond accordingly. And so we can see the grouping from an adult ego perspective. But if the nurse does not respond accordingly, it may jeopardize what is happening at the time. It means that the surgeon was looking for an added response, but now is getting probably a child felt concept. And so conflict emerges. Obviously, in more complex analysis, it will give you what the social intercourse is when there is a conflict between management and workers, and so it creates It's really, in a nutshell, just talking about the stimulus, which is the initiator, soliciting a response from the respondent. And in each case, it may be one is the initiator, one is the respondent, and so we look at what the stimulate solicits as a response and at what level they are operating at, and hence they talk about the transactional analysis.